Good afternoon, good evening, and good morning. Welcome to the African Voice, where we speak about Africa, where we are determined to make Africa great. We want to make Africa great again because we believe Africa was great. Even during those days, Africa was great until what happened. But we believe that Africa was great and still Africa can be great. But there are things that we need to do to make Africa great. We have those leaders that have tried to make Africa great, but they have failed. We have those that have totally failed, and we have those that have tried. And in this channel, we'll be talking about those leaders. We'll be talking the good things they did, and we'll be talking also the bad things that they did. Once we know the history of Africa, that's when it will be easy for us to transform Africa, to change Africa. We learn from the past to build the future. When we learn the mistakes that our forefathers or our leaders did during those times and now, it will be easy for us to change what happened. We can change once we change our mindset, once we believe in ourselves, once we come together. We cannot do this thing when we are divided, that the North are doing this, South are doing this, East are doing this, and West are doing this, and the Central African Republics are doing this. We need to come together as Africans. That's when we will achieve. That's when we will not cry of people dying of these small diseases, malaria and all these diseases that can be controlled by Africans. It's high time that we don't need to believe in other people. Let us believe in ourselves. We have leaders. In me, I believe that we had leaders that wanted to transform Africa. But maybe because of time or because they did have that support from other African leaders or from the countrymen. For example, if it's, let's say, South Africa, like Nelson Mandela, he wanted to transform South Africa, or he tried, but he needed some support to push that narrative to a certain level. So these leaders, I'll be just going through leaders that I believe really tried, but because of one or two things, they did not reach where they had intended to. And if you look at history, is either because of other leaders from other countries. I'm talking about African leaders, maybe because they did not agree in issues or about the leadership of Africa, or because of the influence of the European countries. And we must speak, if it's white, let's say it's white. If it's black, let's say it's black. Because there was interference from these other developed nations. Because they knew if Africa becomes one, then they will fail. It's open like that. Because if you look at what they took from Africa, if we could have just remained with all those things, then Africa will be very great. But still, we can still make Africa great. I'll just go through these leaders that I believe they brought an impact to Africa. And these leaders, according to me, I can put there like Nelson Mandela of South Africa, although South Africa attained independence very late, but we saw how they fought. We saw how they suffered all those years during the apartheid. I think they suffered most, I can say like that, because it was a very long time during their colonization. That's why I say that it took a long time and they really suffered for quite a long time. But you have countries that attained the independence earlier, like Ghana with Kwame Nkrumah. He had a dream, but his dream did not mature. If you are a student of history, you know what happened. That's why I'm saying that because of interference of these other nations, that our forefathers' dream failed. And I remember very well Kwame Nkrumah was pushing for Africa to speak in one voice, because he said that Africa is not independent. He was independent, but he said Ghana is not independent until all other Africans are independent. That was a brotherhood voice. That was a true African. But because of support, after somebody goes and he's not there, that's when we will review what he did and what he was fighting for. That's when we will know where the mistake was. Maybe at that time, a little bit of interference from outside, and they said, Kwame Nkrumah is not a good leader, so one, two, or another, and he was his government was toppled. So these leaders, I believe, they tried, and I've said Nelson Mandela is one of them. Patrice Lumumba of Congo, he tried, and we know also what happened. Very many nations were involved from outside, and what they were using is they used our own African to destroy our Africans. You see, they were manipulating us, and we believe that when somebody is put there, you say, okay, I'm a leader, they give you a lot of power, they give you everything that you need. So you look at your African brother and you feel like he's nothing, and you kill him or you topple that government, and the government, and now people start suffering. We know what Patrice Lumumba was fighting for, what he was against, and what made him to be killed. And it's just because he was fighting for the liberation of Africans. And there were people who were more powerful that did not want him to fight what he was fighting for. As I've said, Kwame Nkrumah is one of them. Another one is Thomas Sankara. When Thomas Sankara came into power, he was very young. And he was very focused. He transformed Burkina Faso, and even he changed the name of Burkina Faso to Burkina Faso. He's the one who brought that name, Burkina Faso. And if you look at those few years that he was the president of Burkina Faso, and he really tried. If I read history, he built a railway line without support from other countries. That even if until now other African leaders, if they want to build infrastructure, roads and all, everything, small things, they'll have to go to Europe, they'll have to go to China, they'll have to go to these other development countries so that they can come and build for them. That we are still, that's, to me, it's still like colonization. Right now, Africa can stand on its own. We don't need to, and we are taking loans from this country. It's as I always say, that there is nothing for free. If you call these people to build roads, if you are capable of paying those loans, why don't you build these roads slowly? People are learned right now in Africa. We have engineers. These people can fix their own roads. We can build our own railways. So Thomas Sankara was a very good example of leaders who are ready to build Africa by themselves. If during that, what about now that things are developed and it's easy to build this infrastructure? Another leader is Muammar Gaddafi of Libya. Muammar Gaddafi was a leader who was fighting for one Africa. We know what happened. We'll be talking about this. We'll talk about the history of Libya. Look at Libya right now. After they removed Gaddafi, they said Gaddafi is a dictator. Gaddafi is not a good leader. Now look at Libya. They are suffering. Yes, I cannot say that he was 100%. Every leader has his shortcomings. But if you look at the whole picture, Gaddafi was a good leader and he wanted Africa to be one. Then we have people like Kaunda. Kaunda was also a great leader. Those are leaders that didn't have a lot of sports. I'm just trying to bring those leaders that I believe they really tried to change their country. Kaunda was a good person. Julius Nyerere of Tanzania This is a person who made sure that his country, despite them being a lot of tribes, over, I think, over 100 tribes, some tribes, they were just speaking in one voice. They didn't have tribalism in their country. He really tried to bring Tanzania together. Another leader is Paul Kagame. He's still a leader right now. And if you look at where Kagame has brought Rwanda from during the genocide in early 90s, we didn't believe. When I read history, I could not believe that during that time until now. And if you look at Rwanda, the way Rwanda has transformed, it has surpassed very many countries that didn't have those problems during that time. So he's a very good leader, and he has really tried to transform Rwanda. And Rwanda right now is one of the cleanest countries in Africa. We have people like Agostino Neto of Angola. When I look at history also, Agostino Neto, they tried coming together with Kwame Nkrumah, Patrice Lumumba, who were trying to bring Africa together. He also played a very good role. And we have Samora Machel of Mozambique. Samora Machel also, we know what happened. History tells us he was assassinated. And if you're a good student of history, you can tell where the assassination came from. Have other leaders like this founder president of Kenya, Jomo Kenyatta. Also, Jomo Kenyatta played a good role in East Africa with Julius Nyerere. And in this channel, The African Voice, we will be speaking about African leaders. Today, I just wanted to touch on few African leaders that I believe they try to bring an impact in African lives. But because of one or two things, they did not achieve their dream. Some of them, they were coming together to speak in one voice. The meetings they were doing, if you look at history very well, they tried, but they failed. That's where I believe now, where we have reached, we can still come together and make Africa great. I believe that it's not a must that we depend from European countries. These people don't come in Africa for free. We have seen what they did to Mali. We have seen what they have done to Burkina Faso. We have seen what they did to Niger. So let us not believe in those people. If right now, Niger, they are minding their own things, they are controlling their own things, they can do it. And I'm really happy that they are coming together and they are proposing one military. They're going to do business together. They're going to do a lot of things together. And this thing is very good because they believe in themselves. And I wish that in the coming years, all these African leaders need to sit down and make the African Union very strong. Let this African Union not be manipulated by these big countries. Because we'll find that even if they are looking for the chairmanship of African Union, they'll have influence from these other countries from outside. And I don't know why our leaders will have to listen to these people when they have everything that it takes to make the African Union strong. Right now, we will be talking about one African army, one African bank, one African currency. These are the things that we want. Without those things, it's done for Africa. Why is it that when you visit other African countries, you are carrying, let's say you are in Nigeria, you are a Nigerian. Now you want to go to, let's say you are going to Kenya. You are carrying your Naira. Coming to Kenya, that Naira is nothing. It's just papers. When you come from Kenya with your shillings, you're going to Nigeria. The shillings in Nigeria is nothing. These are just papers. But when you walk with a dollar, the mighty dollar, that's why they put it like that, the mighty dollar. Then you can go in each and every African country using that dollar. It's high time that we need to come up with one currency. Let us embrace the unity of Africa. Let us fight for the African unity. We are here in this channel. We will be speaking about the African unity, but we will be talking the history. We will start with the history of Africa, because for us to build Africa, we need to know the history of Africa. We'll be going country by country, leader by leader, so that we understand the history of Africa, the problems that our leaders did, the good things that our leaders did. We'll be going specifically. If we touch one leader, for example, we will talk about Nelson Mandela. We'll talk about the good things that Nelson Mandela did for South Africa and the bad things that Nelson Mandela did for South Africa, so that we can know. It will help us to build Africa. It will help us to know where we are heading to, because we want to make Africa great, and we want to make Africa our business. Once we make that Africa being our business, then we'll build the patriotism in us, the African patriotism. Let us build Africa. Let us make Africa great again. Let us make Africa our business. Thank you very much.